How's it going, guys? So I'm standing outside my truck right now, and thought I'd make a YouTube video out of this because apparently it's a pretty common problem. But anyway, I was driving around. Town yesterday, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I just heard a knocking sound coming out from underneath my truck, and it wasn't a significant knocking sound. It was just weird, but it almost sounded like a gear was just kind of clunking around in my transmission. But anyway, I hopped underneath my truck here, and thankfully, it's not that serious. But there it is. And apparently, this is like a drive shaft vibration ring, if you will. So the outside's steel, but the inside's pretty much just nothing but a rubber gasket. And if I crawl under here, you can see that it's held on there by a gasket, which is kind of disintegrating. So I was on the Ranger forums and the Ranger station yesterday looking at this, and apparently it's a pretty common problem. Now, my truck has it has 132,000 miles on it, and pretty much everyone on that forum, on that thread, their trucks have between 100 and 150,000 miles on them. So it sounds pretty common. I mean, I I had another Ranger in Idaho, and it was a 96, but it didn't have that problem. But so apparently there's two ways of fixing this, and one is to try and seat this thing back on there. I'm gonna try and knock it in there with a hammer, but I don't know. I don't have a lot of room to play with here. Or what people have been doing is they completely take the drive shaft out, and they either just completely discard the ring or they seat it back on there. And apparently 9 times out of 10, the people on the guys on the Ranger forums and the Ranger station, they've just left them off, and haven't seen any problems. So if I can't get it on there with the drive shaft in there, I don't know, I might just go ahead and bite the bullet and take it out and then just leave it off, because you can see that gasket is completely disintegrating. So I don't know, we'll see. So I'm gonna go ahead and try and seat this thing right now. Gonna have to get creative on this one, I guess. Alright, I'm back underneath my truck again, and as you can see, it's not back on. So I basically, hitting a hammer with this thing is pretty much not the way to go. It just sits there and bounces and laughs at you. So I even tried grabbing some C-clamps here and, attaching onto this little point, and then putting the main part on the back side of this balancer, but it didn't work. So I've got all the tools, everything else out now, and I'm just going to go ahead and drop the damn drive shaft. So I'll try and do a walkthrough on this thing, because I'd looked here on YouTube, but I didn't really see anything for this model year Ranger for drive shaft removal. So hopefully I don't mess things up too bad. But in here in the garage, and just came back from O'Reilly, and I picked up a thing of, because we had some really crappy jack stands, so I got some new ones and a new 2-ton jack, so I can actually lift this thing a lot higher than my stock jack can lift this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing lifted up and put on the jack stands in the rear, and then I'm going to go ahead and start undoing the bolts and whatnot in the back of the truck. Yeah, so I got the truck up on the jack stands, just like that. So the truck's in neutral right now, and where is it? Right there. You can see that little mark I made with the Sharpie. That's just a marker to let me know which way to put the drive shaft back on. So these are, I believe, 12 millimeter bolts right here to hold these things on. So I've got a 1/2 inch. I'll go ahead and show it to you. I got a 1/2 inch breaker bar with a 1/2 inch to a 1/2 inch to a 1/4 inch reducer here, and then this is the. I can get this. So yeah, 12 millimeter socket right there for this. So I'm gonna go ahead and. Alright, so I'm down to my last bolt here, and all I have to say is the breaker bar is your best friend right now, because especially in my case, I mean, I got jack stands and whatnot, but there's really no leverage underneath this thing. So yeah, thank you to whoever invented leverage or thought of it, whatever. But yeah, so this is the last bolt coming on here, or coming off, I should say. So it's right there. So that's just being held on by all the force that was on the was exuded by the bolts here. So you just got to get a hammer to knock this free. So I just wish Ford would. I mean, I know they do it on the new F-150s and whatnot, but I just wish that they made the connection in the rear as easy. You know, I wish they made the connection in the front as easy as they do in the back, because in the back it's just 4 bolts, really easy. But up here, you got this nightmare of all these little springs that you need to take out, everything else. I mean, it's doable, but it's just annoying and it's a pain. So, more reason to buy an F-150, I guess, but that's after college. So, I'm gonna go ahead and knock the back of the drive shaft off and support it with a jack. Alright, she's off there. And it was the slightest little tap with that hammer, so pretty easy to come off. So you can still see my little, still got that little Sharpie mark there, and then you see it right there. Hopefully you see that. So that's just to line up and make sure that I get the drive shaft back on there the way it was. So it's supported by a jack. I mean, I could lay it down on the floor, but you know, just for support purposes, I have it on the jack stand, or the jack. So I am now going to work on the front so I can get the whole reason for this problem and all this work is for that little guy. So I'll go ahead and get started on the front. Alright, she's out. Turns out, thank you, Ford, you did make it very easy. I'm sorry for my bitching and complaining. So I thought I had to take all this off, and because I thought that this thing was still connected, but I went to put my transmission back in the neutral, and I was spinning this, and it literally, as soon as you take those bolts out, this thing literally just, it slides right off. So that was really easy, and there's the entire reason for doing this. And so apparently this is a balancer of sorts. Now, I mean, I'm on the fence about whether to take this to, you know, put this in the trunk of my dad's Mercedes and you know, take this down to a shop and have them press this back on for me. But from a distance underneath the truck, it looked like these were like screw holes to you know, mount this thing. But you know, as you can see, it's just literally a gasket holding it on. So yeah, I mean, it could have been a little bit better engineered, but you know, it's not like we're talking about a supercar here. We're talking about an economy truck. So I don't blame him for taking the easy way out, I guess, for such a cheap truck. But you get what you pay for, I guess. So yeah, so that was actually really easy. So thank you, Ford, for, again, this is why I love Ford trucks, because they're incredibly easy to work on. Alright, so that's off, and I guess I'll slide the drive Alright, you guys, truck's back on all 4 tires, jack stands are out, and again, this is the source of all that work. Well, not all that work, but you know. So I don't really think you need this. On the forums, a lot of the guys were saying they didn't really use this afterwards, they just took it off, and they're not having any problems. So I'm going to go on a test drive in a little bit. So I want to make sure, you know, I put everything back on correctly. And that's what it looks like without that little sleeve on there. So again, very easy reinstallation and taking everything apart. So that's all torqued down to 80 foot-pounds, and yeah. So if you have any questions about how I did this, or if I missed anything, because again, you know, I'm unscripted, of course, but just thinking off the top of my head, I guess. But if you have any questions or comments or anything about this, you know, small problem, inconvenience, just leave them down below, and I'll do my best to answer them. So, but as usual, thank you for watching, and hope this helps anybody who had the same problem. So take care, guys.